Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Pantry Eats, where I'm going to be cooking a recipe using ingredients in my pantry. It seems appropriate now. If you're watching this in the future, this video is being made during the turmoil that is COVID-19. So presently, most of us are hunkered down, remaining socially distanced from each other while this virus passes. We are gonna get through this, and in the meanwhile, I need a birthday cake. My husband's birthday is coming up, and I need a birthday cake that I can make from ingredients that I have in my kitchen. So today I'm going to be making my Pantry Eats version of the 15-minute birthday cake, which was requested by both Brandy and Nadeige. Thank you both so much for bringing this to my attention. So in a nutshell, this recipe creates a layered cake out of sliced white bread, whipped cream, and a juice reduction. So this video, I have to say right off the bat, I suspect takes much longer than 15 minutes, especially if you want to look as neat and tidy as they make it in the video. It uses some juice to flavor the cake itself, and then it has this kind of reduction with cornstarch, like a jelly mixture you put on top, so you get this kind of decorative thing on top. So just making that sauce in itself would take some time, and I think it would take a big chunk of your 15 minutes. Not to mention if you whipped up whipped cream yourself, that's another 5 minutes. At any rate, I'm going to be making my Pantry Eats version of this. I don't have any whipped topping in the freezer. I don't have any whipped cream in the fridge, but I do have a large bag of dried milk powder. This was from when I made mozzarella cheese out of dried milk powder, so I've got a lot of it left, so perfect. So the recipe that I'm going to be using for the whipped topping comes from a website called Gourmandize, and I will put a link in the description to that in case you're interested. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Whew, this stuff is dusty. Good grief. A half a cup of dry milk powder. Why am I saying dry milk powder? Isn't powder just assumed that it's dry? That's a bit redundant. Why do they call it non-fat dry milk? Oh, they call it dry milk. They don't call it dry milk powder. Okay, so I'm being redundant. The package is not. Do you think this is going to be enough for a cake? Let's double this recipe. 1 cup cold water. And we're supposed to beat this on high for 5 minutes. Alrighty, here we go. Let's kick this up a notch. Oh my gosh. I'm immediately thinking, would this work in a blender? Seems like it would be a lot more contained in a blender. All right, so it's been about 3 minutes and things are definitely frothing up, but at the same time, I'm making a complete mess of my kitchen. There's milk spattered everywhere. And since I doubled the volume of this recipe, I'm gonna use my stand mixer. Yep, bringing out the big guns because I don't want milk everywhere. I have to beat this for an additional 7 more minutes, and this place is gonna look like a disaster. So let's just, save ourselves some trouble and use the big machine. Some people have asked me about this and like, wow, that's a big machine. Where did you get that? I bought this years and years and years ago at Costco, and it was a pretty big investment. It was $260 at the time. But this is something that I plan on having for the rest of my life. I have droplets of, okay. This motor, of course, is much more powerful than a hand mixer, and because the bowl is deeper, I'm hoping that it will be more contained as well. So we're going to continue mixing this on high for another 2 or 3 minutes. All right, here we go. Let's try plugging in the machine. Okay, the machine is plugged in. Is there something that I'm missing here? It's been about 5 minutes. Still very drippy though, but we still have about 7 minutes left. So I'm gonna put a little splash of vanilla in there. Here we go. It's not supposed to make that sound. There we go. Yes, we are getting whipped topping. Oh yes, we still have about 3 more minutes left. Look at that. I think we actually got ourselves some whipped topping right there. Now we're gonna sweeten this. I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar. So get this, as I'm picking things up in the kitchen, on the back of this bag, there's a recipe for creamy whipped topping right here. The recipe is almost identical, except it uses confectioner's sugar, powdered sugar, which seems smart because it would blend better in the whipped topping. And then it says 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some lemon juice to this because it says to add it at the end. And when I made my cremora tart, I'll put the link down below in case you missed that video, there seemed to be a chemical reaction between the milk and the lemon juice that created this thickening. So I'm getting pretty close here, but I want it to be even thicker. So, plus the lemon juice will add a little bit of flavor. So I'm gonna add 1 good lemon right here. I think should do it for us. Lemons, of course, are acidic, and we're adding it to this milk, which tends to curdle when reacted with something acidic. So let's do this. That's pretty amazing. I love that. Look how thick it is. So while that was whipping, I took some of my strawberry jam and I just watered it down with a little bit of hot water just so it can be spreadable. So for the cake part, we're going to use slices of white bread. Now in the video, they use scissors to cut the crust off like this, which is satisfying in its own right, but I think what is faster is just to stack these layers of bread and cut it with a serrated knife, and that way they'll all be the same size. So that's what I'm gonna do. So now we have all of our components. I've got a plate here, and I'm going to use some wax paper to keep things tidy. So all the way around the plate, and then I'm gonna put 1 layer of bread. So in the Yummy video, they use 4 slices of bread per layer, but I don't have quite enough bread for that. So we're gonna do half. Pantry Eats, right? Pantry Eats. And then we're gonna use some of our jam and spread that onto the bread. And not only will that give this cake some flavor, but it will also add a colorful layer to it as well. We're gonna add a layer of our beautiful whipped topping that we just made. Oops, that's why we put wax paper down. All right, now we're gonna take our offset spatula. Okay, let's taste this. I have to say it doesn't taste all that great. Yeah, it tastes like milk powder. It has the consistency of whipped cream, a little bit looser, the bubbles are tight, but it's not as solid as a whipped topping, and the flavor is a little bit strange. It has a very cooked kind of milk flavor to it, but Pantry Eats, right? Pantry Eats. Okay, next we're gonna add another layer of bread. And of course, use whatever you've got. If you don't have jam, you could certainly use juice. If you don't like strawberry jam, use whatever jam or preserves or jelly you've got in your pantry. Another layer of whipped topping. It is pretty incredible how this just whips up. But after I've done my Dalgona coffee and my magic whip coffee, I'm actually not as surprised. So another layer of cake, more jam, another layer of this. If you have whipped cream, I imagine this would taste better with whipped cream. Okay, this is shaping up into a nice little cake here. Look at that. Now, we're just gonna cover this whole thing with the whipped creamy stuff. So while this does have the look and somewhat the consistency of whipped cream, it's a little bit looser. It's not quite as stiff. There is no fat in this, right? This is non-fat milk powder, so it doesn't seem to have the kind of stability as, say, just regular whipped cream. And then I'm going to take the remaining part of this jelly and put it in a zippy bag and see if I can get myself a cute little drizzle on top of this. So the last bit of my strawberry jam in there, and I'm gonna cut the corner, the tiniest littlest hole, and I'm gonna do little diagonal strips right away across here. So just little diagonal lines. I'm going to take a toothpick and drag it in the opposite direction. This way, one direction, and then dragging it in this direction. And then in this direction. And then in this direction. It's kind of working. Yeah. That's pretty satisfying. Cool. So now let's remove our wax paper. Oh boy, that was not good. That shifted everything. Okay. Make your wax paper pieces smaller than I made mine. So there you have it, my version of the 15-minute cake Pantry Eats style. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. Oh, I don't know how to cut this. Oh no, it's too wobbly. No, that is not the slice that I wanted. Alrighty, itadakimasu. I didn't really like the flavor of the whipped cream alone. It had a bit of a vanilla flavor, but the predominant flavor is a dry milk powder. It has a very cooked milk flavor that I don't associate with whipped cream. It's really missing that kind of deep, rich, almost buttery flavor of whipped cream. But the texture is nice. It's fluffy and it kind of magically whips together. It's white, it looks celebratory, so I think it works. But I think what really works to make this taste and feel more like a cake is actually the strawberry jam. It adds a ton of flavor, adds some sweetness. It makes it taste like a cake. The bread, of course, just absorbs the whipped topping and the flavor of the jam. So this does not taste like a birthday cake. This is a cake in a pinch. The bread has the texture of bread. It's a little bit squishy because it's absorbed some of that whipped topping. It's got that jelly in there, but all the flavors combined, it does taste cake-like and reminiscent of a cake. But I think the point of this recipe is to go through the process of making a cake for someone that you love, to mark yet another year on this planet, a day to celebrate indeed. And it's less about the cake and more just about the process and the celebration of life. So there you have it, a Pantry Eats version of the 1-minute cake. I am highly skeptical that even the original recipe comes together in 15 minutes, but I do like the novelty of using things that you have around, namely white bread, to make something celebratory for someone that you care about. Alrighty, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something, and I really do hope that you are all right. Know that I'm thinking of you and that we're gonna get through this really difficult time. We're gonna be okay. Thanks again for watching, and please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. I've been posting more because I've been feeling this need to reach out and to connect with you guys. And yeah, know that I'm thinking of you again. Yeah, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye. I didn't have to make that full batch. A half a cup would have been